but let's talk about vision. Visibility at the speed of operations. I'm pretty excited. Like I said, this has been a couple years in the making. We have a lot to talk about. I've got some demos to show you. Very excited about it. So what we're going to talk about is an introduction about Trimarc, about me, what we've been working on, but really we're going to start with the problem, because we don't believe that you can truly talk about a solution until you define what the problem is and start at the beginning. We're going to talk about some of the questions that CISOs ask and how vision can help answer those questions. We're going to talk about vision, and then one of the key scenarios that we really built vision for, at least at launch, which is coming up very soon in January 12th, which is our early access launch, is mergers and acquisitions and the challenges with how that's been done and how vision can help. The requirements, because certainly if you're excited about vision like we are, you want to get it in your environment, see what it can do for you, but what's needed? What do you need to do for that? Like I said, I'm going to go into the scenario-based demos and then close this out. So I have about 20 slides, so we're not going to beat you over the head with slides. 12 of them have content. So one of the slides is this. So we've already gone through 2 slides, and the third one is about Trimarc. So Trimarc is a professional services company based out of Washington, D.C. I like to say we have employees across the country and customers around the world. We've assessed environments from hundreds of users to over 900,000, including an 80 environment with about 3 million user accounts. So we've seen small environments, large environments across most industries, lots of different complex environments, over 70 domains in an Active Directory forest, lots of GPOs. We've seen environments with about 12,000 GPOs. We've seen environments with thousands of OUs. So lots of interesting things that we've seen over the past 7+ years since I founded Trimarc. But ultimately, our goal is to help improve the security of Active Directory, Azure AD, now Entra ID, if you read Microsoft's marketing, and VMware. We have worked to secure the Fortune 10 and beyond. Our customers have much better security than what they did before we worked with them. We do security assessments in order to help enable the security and improve the security posture of their environment. We recognize that we wanted to do more than that, more than just what we can do per customer by having one of our amazing assessment folks working on the security assessment and providing a report that has some actionable and feasible information for the customer. We wanted to do something where we could have a product, a SaaS product, which would enable the customer to continuously monitor the security of the most important Active Directory security information and issues. So Trimarc's founded by me. I'm Sean Metcalf, a Microsoft Certified Master in Active Directory, Pyrotech3 on Twitter. I have been working in the Active Directory space since about when Active Directory came out, so 23 years, and in NT4 before that. As I mentioned, I'm an MCM, former Microsoft MVP, and I've spoken at some of the largest security conferences around the world, including Black Hat, Microsoft's internal Blue Hat, Blue Team Con. I spoke at Ignite, besides Charm, besides DC, besides Puerto Rico, DEF CON, DerbyCon, Tech, etc. Security consultant and researcher. I really enjoy digging in, trying to figure out what these security issues are, publishing that information. Certainly with Trimarc, we really publish a lot of information in the community. We've released Locksmith, which is a free tool. It's on our Trimarc GitHub where you can download it, and it will scan and look for Active Directory certificate services issues, ADCS issues. We just launched and released Blue Tuxedo, which is on the GitHub, which looks at Active Directory integrated DNS security issues. But really the purpose of these tools is not just to go, hey, here's another scanner, but here's how you fix it. And that's really what Trimarc is about. It's not just discovering the issues, but helping you solve them, helping you get to a better place. So the problem. Again, we're starting with the problem statement, because before you can work towards a solution, you have to understand what the scope of the problem is. I think most of us that have joined this webcast understand the problem with Active Directory security overall. There are security issues across the board. New ones are identified all the time. Keeping up on this is not realistic for the folks that actually manage Active Directory. It's challenging enough for those who are responsible for security of the organization, because it's not just about Active Directory. You also have Azure AD, Microsoft 365, you may have AWS, you may have VMware, you have a lot of servers like SQL, you may have SCCM, Oracle, a bunch of different things in the environment. But let's focus on Active Directory. And so most of the time, companies are going to get a pen test, red team. They may have a security assessment. They may have assist review, CIS review of the settings in the environment, or they may reach out to us at Trimarc and ask us to help them by performing a security assessment of their environment and then providing guidance around that. But most companies are not going to have an Active Directory security assessment done every year, maybe even 2 years or 3 years. So what happens in those 22 to 23 months or 34 to 35 months in between those security assessments? There's drift, there's things that were fixed and maybe got unfixed over time. And that often requires or involves running a few different tools to see what's going on. Is there anything else that weren't captured or that are new? How do we continuously monitor our environment to know what our security of our AD environment is? And then the security products that are out there often focus on discovering malicious activity in the environment. What are attackers doing? Are they actively doing anything? Instead of fixing and focusing on the fix of these misconfigurations and identifying those. So what are the misconfigurations? What are the things that attackers can take advantage of? Most of the security products have very basic checks around these. And also the recommended guidance is not always clear, not always actionable, not always feasible, and typically require additional research, which means that someone on your team has to be dedicated to go to Google to figure out what's going on, or maybe ChatGPT now. But ultimately, the other challenge is figuring out how to objectively quantify or qualify risk for any given Active Directory forest is complicated and challenging, and it's not straightforward because how do you assign point values to different levels of risk, different vulnerabilities, different security issues? And this is further complicated when you look at multi-forest environments. So if you just have one AD forest, that's hard enough, right? Through mergers and acquisitions, you may have many. You may have dozens of different Active Directory forests. And most of the time, these have happened or occurred through mergers and acquisitions. And performing some type of assessment on all of these environments is often infeasible or expensive. And what we've seen many customers do is assess a couple each year, or assess many of them 1 year and then later on maybe others. But then you still end up with a situation where you get a report per forest. And the security audit tools that are out there, you'll get a report per forest, or a capture of information and issues by forest, or a console for each forest. And then this means that correlating issues across 80 forests, I trust, it is more complicated, it's more difficult. It matters, it needs to be done, but trying to look at that report from the reports are typically the viewpoint of that report is that forest, not necessarily how another forest in that configuration ties into it. And then finally, when an environment has a lot of Active Directory forests, like 20, 25, or even over 100, understanding and knowing what all these forests are is complicated and difficult to find. I mentioned that there's questions that CISOs ask. Certainly, many of you have worked with the CISO, maybe are the CISO, and have heard these questions or something similar. What risks do I have in my environment with Active Directory? What should I be most worried about in AD when it comes to potential or probable attacks? What actions can I take today, tomorrow, this week to best mitigate any of this Active Directory attack impact? And they might not ask specifically about Active Directory. They might say our identity system. Ultimately, it comes down to AD, and that's what we're focused on today. Are there new critical issues in AD we don't know about that are related to changes that we've had recently, or new attack improvements? Or we heard about this breach recently. How does what happened in that tie to us? Are we vulnerable to that same sort of attack? Microsoft's ADCS seems to be targeted by attackers. What is my risk with this? And then finally, and probably most importantly, what is the current security posture for our Active Directory environment? What forests do we have? Do we have some that have more issues than others? Well, we're going to answer these questions using Vision in a little bit. So with Vision, we've thought about this and looked at it from basically the ground up. As folks that have come from operations and have shifted over to security, we looked at it, as Danny had said, a product that we couldn't help but build. In fact, I would say that in many ways, the 7 years of Trimarc has been building towards this moment where we can put together a SaaS product that enables our customers to better understand what the security issues are, the most important security issues in their environment, better identify risk at a global level. So for all Active Directory force or just the one that's in the environment. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Vision is a Trimarc product, which means you have all of the Trimarc Active Directory security knowledge, expertise, and understanding behind it, as well as the information about how best to fix those things. Vision provides us continuous monitoring of the environment to identify and see what's changed in order to better mitigate these potential issues that attackers will leverage. And the cool thing about it is it's just one console for any number of forests. And everything that you see in this console portal is available through an API access. The other great thing that we do is when there's multiple Active Directory forests, we are doing this correlation across those different 80 forests and identifying what concerns there are. Is there cross-forest administration? Are there other issues with the way that accounts are being configured across those different forests? And then we're continuously updating. We're launching early access in January with a number of checks. We have a huge number of checks that we're adding after that. Basically, Vision is a subset of what Trimarc does from an Active Directory security assessment perspective. And our goal is to load into Vision all of the most important things that matter from a security perspective for Active Directory. And then finally, Vision is actually going to have the ability to discover other forests that are not currently monitored by Vision. So if you have 1 or 2 forests and Vision goes, hey, what about this other one? Then you know that maybe you have 3 or 4. Ultimately, our goal is to empower our customers to better assess risk and fix the issues faster. So Vision, again, leverages the extensive knowledge and experience that we have at Trimarc with working with hundreds of customers over the past several years to help them better secure their environment. And that's not a one-way conversation. We're not delivering a report for the customer and then walking away. We have conversations with them, talking about what issues they've had with implementing recommendations. We've updated our reporting, we've updated our communication with the customer to improve that. All of that knowledge and experience is baked into Vision. We also do real-world based risk scoring. So that way you know when Trimarc says objectively that this forest is rated, has a Trimarc risk rating 2000 and this other forest has a Trimarc risk rating of 500, then the one with 500 has objectively lower risk than the one that's at 2000. And the remediation planner that we spent months building based on feedback from customers this year enables customers to know and understand what the roadmap is on how to fix these things, what should be done first, and pretty much in what order. And these efforts can be scoped to a single forest. So if you have one forest, all these great things is what you get with Vision. If you have multiple forests, it just gets even better for you because you're able to understand and have that correlation and capture of every forest in your environment. And that remediation planner that captures the most important things and puts them up front and says, do these things in this order. Here's the critical things. Here's what forests are affected. And I'll show you that in a bit. That can be scoped to one forest, several, or all of them in your organization. So again, getting these things fixed faster. And this prioritization matters because ultimately the reporting of the issue is just half the story. Knowing that you have a problem is, as I say, is only half the battle. The other part is knowing how to fix it. What needs to get done? What is the impact of doing those things? Trimarc captures and incorporates all these things into our recommendations so that you know that you can go ahead and do these things in that order. Because ultimately, level of effort matters as well. So we're also going to talk about how things have been done and what we're doing with Vision. So the existing approach very often is looking at AD from the bottom up, so from workstation server, and then going up to look at AD as part of that. Or only looking at one Active Directory forest without looking at the others and digging into the issues with each of those. Or looking at a subsection of what represents AD security, so certain checks of certain areas. These often don't identify effectively the most important Active Directory security issues, or potentially lack AD security expertise, or reference security researchers from other places that have done the research and talked about why these things matter, but don't fully understand it based on what's being pointed to in the tool or in the recommendation. And the thing that I think probably matters the most is practically all of the security tooling products that are out there focus on the security team and are meant to be run by the security team. And so what happens there is the security team is looking at that tool. Operations doesn't. The AD admins don't see that tool or have visibility into it. And so security is copy pasting and providing that over to operations, and ops is going, okay, I see you're saying I should do this. I don't really understand why. There's oftentimes the context is not there. So with Vision, where focus is on Active Directory as a service and everything we can potentially look at. In fact, what we're doing with Vision is looking at practically the same things that we look at from a full Active Directory security assessment. We're doing less checks, so a subset of the checks, but really focused on what are the most important things and some of the key components like Active Directory certificate services. We're doing root cause analysis of how that issue has come to play, why it's there, how best to fix it. But ultimately, we want to identify those issues that attackers love because it enables them to escalate, persist, and exfiltrate data. And Vision really is meant to provide rapid resolution to ensure that these issues are not there when the attackers stumble upon your environment, and is really built for use by both security and operations, because Trimarc ultimately is that blend of security and operations. Our goal is to blend together the understanding from an operational perspective and a security perspective. Security perspective, here is the security issue, these are the problems in the environment. But the operational perspective needs to be taken into account as well in order to know what needs to be done next. How can that be done? Can you enable this? Can you fix this? And Vision is an extension of this. Vision is an extension of that. The goal with Vision is that both security and operations have access into the Vision portal or into the system that Vision can feed through the API in order for security to identify and monitor what the issues are and operations to work through the remediation plan and actually get these things fixed. Mergers and acquisitions. So there's a lot of challenges with this. I'm sure a bunch of you are sighing with me on this when you hear about M&A and the challenges with it. Access to the M&A environment is challenging. In order to do some sort of security review, which tend to be fairly brief and basic because there's only days to get access to it, and typically, again, getting access to it is challenging. Days to perform it, turn it around in order to make sure that the timeline of the closing of this happens. And then oftentimes it's this conversation of, okay, connect them to the environment, set up a trust, get those accounts set up in our HR system, on all the different systems, go ahead and set up those accounts in our production AD environment. But let's also connect it via trust. And then we encounter, from what we've seen, a lot of these organizations encounter many Active Directory forests through M&A that maybe haven't been looked at, maybe it's deprioritized, maybe even forgotten. Did that company that we acquired last year, did they even have Active Directory AI? I don't remember. Because there often isn't a good track of that. So with Vision, we can provide the real-world based risk scoring of the AD forests. We can provide a comparison between your production forest and your M&A forest, and then show the most important details of that. We can auto-generate, and we do, a summary of why connecting these via trust is risky or not. The cool thing about it is there's no agent required to do this for an M&A scenario. You can use the agent, but you don't need it. You can simply run the Trimarc tool, upload the output into the Vision portal, and then from there, Vision will light up in about 2 days, and you'll be able to do the comparison between the two environments with a full summary and capture of what the issues are in that environment, along with a risk rating. Also, the great thing about using Vision post M&A, so we do this as part of the M&A process. Post M&A, now the company is officially acquired, maybe they're a subsidiary, but now we can actually make some decisions based on what Vision provides us. We can start looking at, okay, when do we actually create a trust between these two? Maybe we're going to set a bar and say, okay, the Trimarc risk score must be 800 or lower before we allow a trust between these two forests. It enables us to objectively identify what the security posture is of that forest, or really of any forest, in order to determine if a trust is even appropriate for it. So as far as the requirements go, this is the great part about it, and the thing I'm really excited about. You don't need to install Vision on a domain controller. You do not need domain admin rights for Vision. Vision runs as a regular user. You install it on any server in the Active Directory forest. And for offline environments like certain manufacturing environments, you can just run the Vision tool. You can set up a scheduled task, capture that output from it, and then manually upload that every week or two or whatever cycle that you want to be able to do in order to ensure that you have recent results for that offline forest. We are recommending using a GMSA. We are expecting in the future to have the agent or the agent install actually walk you through that process. And then, as mentioned on the slide, we need internet access from the server running the Vision agent to connect to the Trimarc Vision cloud in order for it to automatically capture that information every day. But there is the offline mode for those disconnected networks, which I think is really great because we have that flexibility and that understanding that not every environment is directly connected to the internet. And really, when it comes down to it, Vision works great for one forest. It works great for multi-forest. We know that there's many, probably most of the organizations out there have one Active Directory forest. A lot more have 2 or 3 now than used to. We have them for the DMZ. We have them for dev test. We have them for Q&A. We have them for a different business unit. And of course, we have them because of merger and acquisition. But one forest or multiple, regardless, you're going to still have the Trimarc risk score, discovery of the key Active Directory security issues, rapid identifications of all the critical issues in your environment, and the remediation planner that provides you that contextual information of how to get these things fixed in what order. On the multiple 84 side, you can have the remediation planner scope to one forest, many, or all. You can correlate these security issues across the forest through the fact that they have trust configured, and you can identify these most common security issues across the 80 forests. How many of my 80 forests have issues with a Kerber roastable Active Directory admin account or a Kerb TDT account that hasn't had a password changed in 5 or 10 or 15 years? And then, of course, the comparison of security posture between our production forest or our ideal forest that is well secured and an M&A forest, or really any, because ultimately the comparison engine was developed for M&A, but is available for any comparison of any 2 forests in the environment.